Reggie Miller called Game 7 between the Mavs and the Suns. He will be back at it tomorrow. It'll be Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals between the Mavericks and the Warriors. And always great to see the Hall of Famer. Reg, it was back in December, I think, where you were talking about Luka plotting and saying he was probably the heaviest he's ever been on the court. Luka has since come back around to say, you know what? Basically, you were right. Did Luka ever say anything to you since then, in between those comments and these comments, kind of saying, yeah, you were right?
He didn't per se say thank you. He gave me a dap and shook his head and said, I understood. More so, Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd said, thank you. Because it's almost, and you know this very well as a parent, you can say everything you want to your kids, and it goes in one ear and out the other. But when they hear it from somewhere else, and it's the same message, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. So he understood, and he knew. And Jason Kidd had been kind of verbalizing to him, you've got the kingdom at your feet, young man, but you've got to get in better shape. And you've got to stay off the officials. And he took both of those advices, coming from Kevin Harlan and myself, and obviously from Jason Kidd. And this is where we are now.
Luka was around 260 pounds, which is 30 more than his listed playing weight. He said, people are going to talk about it, yes or no, but I know I've got to do better. I had a long summer. I think I relaxed a little bit, not taking care, but I've got to be better. I had the Olympics, took 3 weeks off. I relaxed a little bit, maybe too much. I just got back on track. And I remember when you tweeted, or you said it, and I text you, and I said, those are strong comments. And you said, I think, was I fair? And I said, yes, because you're assessing what you're seeing, that Luka was not the same player. You weren't making fun as much as you were being an analyst in that situation. And I was curious if people were going to say, oh, are you fat shaming Luka in a situation?
And some did, yeah. Obviously, some people did. But again, and that's the beauty of what you and I do, and especially for myself, having been on Turner and TNT for the last 15 plus year, they give us a platform for us to be honest. And I know how great Luka can and will be in the future. And at the start of the season, he wasn't at his best. And for all the reasons that you just highlighted, words out of Luka's mouth, he understood it was a long and tough summer for him too. For them to qualify for the Olympics, it was very difficult. And I understand why he took 3 weeks to a month off. First of all, I would like to know where he was partying for 3 or 4 weeks for him to pick up 30 pounds, because that's the kind of party I want to go to with you, Luka. I want to be hanging out with you. But he understood to be at this level in the NBA, he had to be better. He had to be lighter. And again, we weren't fat shaming, because when he is at his best, which we have seen in these playoffs, no one can touch him. And it's funny, every time we would speak with Jason Kidd before the games, he keeps going back to, he's LeBron. He's LeBron. He's too big. He's too physical. They have no answer for him. And he's showing that because of when he's in shape and his size, being able to get wherever he wants on the floor, Dan.
Help me understand this. I brought this up earlier, that we look at the best point guards of all time. You know, we'll have Chris Paul in there and Isaiah, and you have Magic and John Stockton and Steve Nash, whoever's on your list. They're all short guys except for Magic.
Right.
Why isn't LeBron in there as the second best point guard of all time? Where is Luka? He's a point guard. Why aren't they designated point guards here?
I think we're past that stage now in today's game, because it's positionless basketball now. When you and I were coming up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there was, point guards, shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards, centers. Everything now is gumbo. Everything is all mixed together. And Luka handles the basketball 85, of the time. Same with LeBron. And you look at LeBron's numbers, he has point guard numbers in terms of assists. I mean, he's up there with the point guard. So you're right. LeBron, Luka, at the end of the day, will have the same type of numbers as a top 7-8 point guard. But you look at their body size being 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" at times for Magic. People kind of scratch their heads because the whole notion of point guards goes back to Bob Cousy at 6 feet. You know, people think of Bob Cousy as the ultimate point guard, and John Stockton and Isaiah, but that's no longer in today's game.
How do you explain what happened to the Phoenix Suns on Sunday night? And when did you realize they were going to be in trouble?
Every timeout, Kevin Harlan and myself, we would look at one another like, can you believe this is like, we were in shock. And when Luka set the tone early, scored the first 8, with 2 of them being 2 step back threes, I knew something magical was going to happen that night. We thought it was going to be the reverse. We thought, oh, Phoenix, they're going to put these kids to bed. They're tired of this. And they were not 2. They were really 3 steps behind the Dallas Mavericks. But I'm going to give credit to Jason Kidd and his coaching staff. Very well prepared all series. But to me, Luka set the tone in Game 7, and that's what your best player has to do, because he has to give belief and hope to the rest of the guys like, okay, jump on my shoulders. It's going to be okay. When he set the tone with those first 8, everyone fell in line in formation, and it was downhill for the Suns after that.
I don't know if you ever felt this. I'm sure that you made other people feel this, but when Luka hit the corner jumper and the net had a zing to it, like it wasn't he just made it or kind of made it. It was whenever I would play against somebody and they made a shot, it was how they made the shot that sometimes stayed with me, where you're going, oh, damn, they're on tonight. And when Luka made that shot from the corner, I think the second 3 that he made, I went, uh-oh, they're in trouble, because he was feeling it and letting the crowd know, hey, you better buckle up. We're in for a long ride tonight.
When he was knocking down those shots, it was in front of Larry Fitzgerald, Travis Kelce. You know, it was Celebrity Row that was right there, and he was just giving it to them. Not to them per se, but to that general area. And every time he made a shot, it was like a gasp was in the air. So they knew, the Phoenix Suns team knew that he was coming for business. And sometimes when your best player, he just let the air out of that whole building, and it gave confidence and life to the others on that Mavs team. You know, Spencer Dinwiddie was a no-show the first 5 games. In Game 6 and 7, he found his stroke, and that's because of the belief that they all have in Luka.
Do you think the window of opportunity for the Suns is closed?
I don't think it's closed. You don't win 64 games by accident. I think they have some decisions to make this summer. Number one being DeAndre Ayton, which, you know, for him to only play 17 minutes in Game 7, and then for Monty to get on the podium afterwards, and when asked that question, why did he only play 17 minutes? His only response was it's internal. Something obviously and clearly was going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to. But again...
Oh, you didn't see anything on the sidelines between those two?
No. And that's the way they've always run their organization. You're not going to see anyone get out of character. Whatever happens with the Phoenix Suns is going to happen behind closed doors. But it was a little surprising because coming into this series, we felt, and everyone felt, that Ayton had to be the difference maker because he was so dominant all season. He was dominant in that first round matchup versus the Pelicans, and you would think he would have the advantage because basically they were playing 5 small guys with, you know, Bertans and Maxi Kleber being the tallest guys for the Mavericks at 6'9". He should have the clear-cut advantage. And after that 25-point first game, you didn't hear from DeAndre Ayton. So it was a little head scratching, but they have some decisions to make.
Talking to Reggie Miller. Reggie will be on the call. Game 1 Western Conference Finals, Mavs and the Warriors. That'll be tomorrow night. Game 1 tonight, Heat and the Celtics. Who do you like?
Wow. I really feel this is a pick'em series. I can make a case for both sides. You look at Boston, what they've done in the first 2 rounds, and I know it was a sweep of Brooklyn, but those were 4 very hard-fought games versus the Nets. And then to defeat the defending champs in 7, having won twice in their building, it says a lot for Boston. My question going forward, do they have enough? And every possession is going to mean something in this Boston-Miami series because both teams are fabulous defensively. And no one is talking about how great Jimmy Butler has been for the Miami Heat in these playoffs. Everyone's talking about Luka, and rightfully so, and Jason Tatum, rightfully so. You could put Jimmy Butler's name in there as well because he's been that good. If you're asking me to make a pick, I'm going to roll with what my son told me this morning when I posed him the same question that you just asked me. Who do you like? He's like, Dad, I'm rolling with Uncle Jimmy and Miami Heat. I think no one's giving Miami Heat a lot of love. And I know Tyler Hero's been disappointing in these playoffs, but I just think something special is brewing in South Beach. I'm going to go with Jimmy Butler in Miami in a very tough 7-game series.
See, I think that Tyler Hero is the key to the Miami Heat because if he's averaging over 20 a game, everybody else does what they're supposed to do, then I think Miami can win this. If Tyler Hero continues to give you 6, 8, 10 points off the bench, I just don't think you can match the firepower there.
I agree with you 100%, and he's got to show up. Another big X factor will be Gabe Vincent. Obviously, he gets the start tonight. No Kyle Lowry. We don't know if Lowry would be back at all in the series. You hope he would be, but Gabe Vincent is going to have to play above his means for the Heat to be successful.
You were mentioning the celebrities at the Phoenix Suns game. Aside from New York, with your interaction with Spike Lee, what celebrity on what team you noticed or you had interaction with around the league?
Interaction with, I would say it was always cool to play the Lakers and obviously shake hands with Jack because he was the Spike Lee of the Lakers. And at the time, in the late 80s and 90s, it was, Jack Nicholson, the actor, the Academy Award-winning actor. So it was kind of cool for him to just acknowledge your play.
Did he say anything negative to you? Did he try to get under your skin?
No. The only person that ever tried to do that was who from New York.
Yeah.
Everyone else, for the most part, celebrity-wise, because I had already set the precedent in the bar high. If you're going to talk to me, you're going to be a part of the game. So they all knew what I did to Spike. So celebrities are always they were on notice that I could go off and I was going to make them a part of the dialogue. So they were pretty cool with that.
Did you ever think about fighting Spike Lee?
No, it was never going to come to
What
that.
if he was 6'5"?
Then it's on. Then it's on. That's my rule. 6'5" or above.
Okay.
It's on. 6'5" or below, it's going to be all about words.
But when you try to use that to your advantage, like that's the key sometimes that, I always wondered, and I always thought maybe you got too into the conversation with Spike Lee and that could take you away from your game. Whereas Luka, it felt like, was acknowledging the crowd a little too much. Like, stay in your game, stay in the moment. How hard is that to do?
At times it could be difficult. Look, and I'm going to be honest here as well. Sometimes you have to manufacture your own type of, I don't know.
Well, Jordan did this. Jordan would make up feuds with guys that didn't even know he had a feud against him.
Sometimes you gotta manufacture it. You know, you gotta manufacture bad blood. And I think at times that's what Luka, we see him doing. All the talking to the fans. I personally, I like it. You know, it keeps you engaged, and you know, and then sometimes it spills over to your opponent, because we saw him and Devin Booker kind of going at it a little bit. You've got to build that up in a series, because you're going to be seeing each other for the next 10 to 12 days. So I've got to build up bad blood. Right now, there's no bad blood between the Warriors and the Mavs. But I guarantee you, after game one, something will be manufactured. Draymond Green will say something. Luka will say something. Jalen Brunson's going to get into it. It's going to be a fun series to watch, how they manufacture the hate towards one another.
Lakers still haven't named a head coach, and I'm curious why not.
Maybe they're trying to exhaust their search. I felt that they were waiting for current coaches that were still in the playoffs.
Yeah.
To take a look at.
Is that a desirable job, Reg?
At the end of the day, it is the Laker brand. They do, them along with the Celtics, have the most championships. Desirable, I don't know. A lot of pressure comes with that. And it depends on who you're going to be answering to. Are you going to be able to coach the way you want?
Yeah.
Or are you going to be hearing from Jeannie Buss, Kurt Rambis, Rob Pelinka? Are you going to be hearing from all these people? Or are you going to be able to execute your game plan on a nightly basis the way you want? And now Phil Jackson's in the mix in terms of voices, right? And how much pressure is that, especially if you're one of these young coaches that they've been interviewing and potentially could get the hire? You know, you've got Phil Jackson, one of the greatest of all time. Now he's chiming in. So it's very difficult.
Well, but then you look at the roster, Reg. We haven't even
you still got LeBron James and you still got Anthony Davis. But other than that, you've got a lot of work to do.
And you're going to have to make Russell Westbrook work. They're not going to trade him. You're going to have to make him work somehow. And you can't change him.
Yeah, but there's ways where you can tweak him, hopefully, to make him more successful. And on the flip side, Russell has to look himself in the mirror too and say, I'm not the 23-year-old Russell Westbrook from OKC, right?
But Reg, some of those shots are like, you don't even see that in a youth league game. He's hitting the side of the backboard. Come on.
Sometimes you've got to look yourself in the mirror, Dan. He's got to look himself in the mirror.
And say what when he looks at himself in the mirror?
I'm not as good as I used to be, but I'm also not as bad as Theodore and the Danettes and Reggie Miller are saying I am as well.
I would never let him take a jumper from 18 feet out, 15 feet out. Like, he can shoot free throws, and he's a good free throw shooter. But I just have to say to him, you have a no-fly zone in here. Everything is going to be going to the hoop there.
Well, here's the problem. That's not the type of player that can play with LeBron James. LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they need space, floor spacers. That's not Russell Westbrook.
Oh, my God.
And that's what the new coach is probably saying right now. Oh, my God.
I know. Is Steve Kerr underrated or overrated?
As a head coach?
Yeah.
Well, I certainly wouldn't say he's overrated for a guy who's won.
Well, he stepped into a great situation here.
Well, so did Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay. In both places, in Chicago.
Well, no, but he didn't. He stepped into that, but then they got Scotty and they added some pieces there. And Doug Collins didn't make them a winner, and he had Mike. So Phil, I'll give him credit in Chicago. In L.A., that felt like, hey, I'm going to show up on third base. Let me tell you about the triple I hit.
I would say Steve Kerr, as great as Mark Jackson is and was for the Warriors, Steve Kerr just added a little bit more spice to the Warriors. I don't think he gets enough credit.
Okay.
I don't think he gets enough credit.
All right. That's
as
fine.
well as Mark Jackson. I think people tend to forget that Mark Jackson laid the foundation, and it gets lost in the mix for what he did for the Warriors and with the Warriors.
Yeah, because Mark they were a defensive team, like Mark stressed defense. It felt like Kerr came in and said, let's open this up. Steph, you're going to be taking those shots. I'm fine with that. I mean, it took him a little while before he went, I don't know if I want you shooting out that far. And then all of a sudden he's like, you keep shooting out that far.
Yeah, go ahead. You can shoot from out there.
Clay, go on ahead,
No, Kerr added the offensive identity, and they kept Mark Jackson's defensive identity as well.
Yeah,
that's
I think that's fair.
Just added to it. He added to it.
All right. He's Reggie Miller. He'll be on the call tomorrow night, 9 Eastern on TNT. Game 1, a Western Conference Finals, Mavs and the Warriors. Reg, looking great, and we'll be watching tomorrow night.
Theodore, you're the best, Danettes. Love y'all.
That's Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller. When we win a sports Emmy, Reggie gets a sports Emmy.